So we're in a new file. Just close that one down. If you want to switch your interface mode, you can hit your little Figma logo and you can go preferences and it's theme. So system theme, I believe, is what it defaults to. And you can switch it to light or dark. Like I said, I prefer the light mode personally. If you're in dark mode, this background is probably also going to be dark. Again, for me, I don't love that. So I go preferences, theme, light mode. But your actual background. So if I zoom out, there's nothing in here right now, but this is just your background. So it's not your actual working art space. It's just the background around it. So if you think about Illustrator, we have our artboard and usually around it is like a grayish or whatever tone. So you can switch that by going here. So this is page and you can adjust that to be whatever tone you like. I personally prefer it a grayish tone. You can set that however you would like. Before we do anything, whoop, see, goodness gracious, see, everything's a little bit new. Okay. Over here, oh, and I don't like that my toolbar is down here now. Oh, this is so weird. So we have our pages, which we actually technically do not have. If you do not have an updated Figma, but you probably did if you just recently downloaded it, but if you had it previously and haven't done an update, then these tools might not be down here. But to get yourself started, so in the assignment, I think it's 1920 by 1080. So I would personally choose to do your tutorial or your 404 error screen on a desktop. It gives you just some visual freedom, but you're welcome to do mobile. So to get yourself started, you're going to go down here, which is your frame tool. If you hit the little arrow, you also have a section tool. We won't worry about that right now. You will use that eventually. But if we go to our frame tool, you can see over on the right-hand side, you have some predetermined sizes. So these are our phone sizes, our tablet sizes, and this is what we want is for desktop. If it does not have the size you want, that's okay too. You can go ahead and plunk one in there. So once we pop a page in there, we can actually go over to the layout and we can switch that size. So we can go 1920 by 1080. Alternatively, we can also use our frame tool and we can just draw one in there and adjust that size, 1920 by 1080. And there's our two frame sizes. So once we have our frames in there, we can see over here that on the pages, we just have one page and we can title this first. So we can go ahead and we can call this desktop error page. So now we've given this a name. So now not only do we have pages, but we now have layers. So when you see that little kind of like a number sign, that frame in there, that is representing this. If I happen to put anything on here, it's going to show up here. So again, just think of Illustrator essentially, or Photoshop and how those layers work. Everything's built on here, but be mindful of where it's sitting. So if you have something out here, you can see that it's not actually on my page. It's sitting outside of it. So if I go and, for instance, export this, for submission. If anything is not actually sitting on here, it's not going to show up. So sometimes you might have something like this and you're like, oh yeah, that little piece is sitting there. But when you export this, that square is not going to show up because it's not actually sitting on the artboard. So you can actually go and manually drag it in there and you can see it trims it. Or you know it's gone in there is when your page actually highlights. So you can see that it's been highlighted blue. And that now means whatever you're placing is actually on there. So once we have that in there, again, we can just walk through these. So just like our basic move tool, you can access this by hitting the letter V, just like an Illustrator. The hand tool, spacebar works, including the H. And to zoom, you can use your Command X or Y, or if you hold down Command and you use the zoom on your mouse, you can also zoom in and out, which is something I wish Illustrator had. Okay. Why can't I rename this. Oh gosh, it's changed. It used to be up here. Oh, there it is. Rename. Let's go ahead and name that as well. Okay, so back to it. So you won't need these once you set up that initial frame, and you do not need to set up a section at this time, and we do not need to worry about slicing. Like I said, if you want to confirm that you are working in the correct size, we're going to click up at that name. And if we go over here, we get a whole bunch of other options come up. So we have our width and our height. So that's our 1920 by our 1080. We have our shape tool, which works just like all the other shapes and all of our other platforms. Shannon.
So when I click, I have a different, I think I have the old layout of Figma.
Are they at the
But
top?
Sorry?
Are the toolbar is different? Is it over at the top?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
When I go into like click on the page to change the size, the height and width isn't an option on the right-hand side.
So if you click this name here, it doesn't show up here in layout.
No.
I think if you do a section, it does that too.
We can talk about it after if you want.
Yeah, maybe we might need to kind of do a screen share afterwards. Anybody else have that issue? Is anybody else able to or not able to view the layout size if you click on the actual name? No comment. Okay. When I'm done with this and everyone's working on it, I'll take a look at yours, Shannon, okay? Because that one's an odd one for me. Okay, so when we click on this, like I said, we have all of our other options up here, which are a lot of the basic ones that you might have grown to know and love from Illustrator and Photoshop. So you have your align tools. You can, use your, align to left, right, top, etc. You can specify the size of things like the actual pixel dimensions. Your appearance is oops, let me just move this. If you want to add a corner radius on there, so if I want to add a 40% radius, these are not, oops. Gosh, this is a little bit different for me because things have changed. So corner smoothing, that's a new tool. So that's going to be where you can adjust the edge of the corners. For your fill, same thing. If you go and you click, you can go and manually source. You can eyedrop. You can adjust the opacity. Anything like that is obviously accessible here. And you can also adjust the opacity over here. If you say, for example, want to remove the fill on that, you can literally go and you can hide it. Or to eliminate the fill, you can hit that minus sign as well. If we want to go ahead, so anytime we want to add something, so it's a little bit, kind of functions a bit different. We access things by hitting the plus sign. So right now there's no stroke on it. If I want to add a keyline stroke, I hit that plus sign. And again, now we just choose our color. So let's do something contrast. Right now it's set to be on the inside. So same as Illustrator, is it going to be a center line or on the outside, etc. And then here is, oh gosh, it works a little bit different. Here's where you can adjust the size. So if you click, this is different too. You actually click and drag versus clicking and actually being able to manually put that in. But this is where you can adjust your stroke style if you want to. Oops. Sorry, folks, a few things for me to get used to. And again, same thing, you can hide that, or you can hit the minus if you want to eliminate that. Anything like drop shadows, things like that are all going to be in your effects. So again, we hit that plus sign. So we can have a drop shadow, inner shadow, etc. So if we want to add a drop shadow, if we click this, that's just where we are setting that. So your X and Y where you're going to set it on that axis, how far you want to go to, and then the color and the opacity. So again, same thing. We can simply just hide that or remove it, anything. So it's kind of different. Layers and effects kind of work differently. In Figma, when we look at that right-hand side, it's almost like working with the appearance panel in Illustrator. So when you add different effects or add strokes or different weights, all of that can be accessed and visualized through the transform or the appearance panel. So in Figma, that's by default always over on the right-hand side. And then our layers are just strictly over on the left-hand side. I'll get into export later. So for the most part, that's about all you're going to need to do for this. We just need essentially a few simple shapes. So say we want to add a background. If we use our type tool, we can add some type, selecting your fonts. If you're looking for all those wild, crazy fonts, some may or may not be installed on here. Oh gosh, there's lots of new fonts in here. Woo. Let's just pick, oh, let's just leave it at enter, or no. Don't get me into fonts because then I'm going to go crazy. Here we go. Same thing here, adjusting the type size. Some font size, you're able to adjust the weights. Again, you're letting all of this stuff is the exact same. If you click here, you'll get further options for underline, etc. So you can go ahead and you can utilize those if you need to. Details, not really necessary right now. One thing that is something for me to get used to, if you use your corners to scale up, it doesn't scale up like you would be able to in Illustrator. So you do need to manually go and adjust your type size through here. You can't just do it through your error or through your arrow, I should say. So you can plunk your type on there and then write your funny little message. What I do want to talk about is imagery. So if you do want to go ahead and add an image on there, so let's just book. We're going to go ahead and download this one. Please do not look at my organization because it's embarrassing right now. So we go ahead and look, but what I do want you folks, which was not enforced previously, is if you do use an image, please appropriately credit it. So if you do use Unsplash, you can quickly go and copy your credits here and make sure you just kind of go ahead and you paste that somewhere. So when you do your final submission here, you can put a photo provided by, and then you would paste that little credit in there. So please keep that in mind.